Hey, psst, you want to see what's in your oats? I do. Welcome to Science to Get High By. I'm Kat Jones, and I've been spending some time staring into the microsphere again. Want to see something really cool? This is what your oatmeal looks like, way up close and personal. Ah, what's this? So if you haven't spent a lot of time looking into microscopes, an alien landscape like this can seem really disorienting at first. Like, what is going on here? Right? The point here is to get an overall sense of what we're looking at and kind of get oriented in the microsphere. And we're going to learn more about what the specific organisms and things are later in subsequent videos. So just to quickly orient you, when you look at this, what's the first thing that stands out? It's the motion, right? These weird things that are moving all around. Those things are protists. Sometimes they're microanimals, but in this case, these are protists. And the thing that makes it a protist, as opposed to those tiny, tiny little dot-like things squiggling around in the background, is that those tiny little dot-like things, those are bacteria. And bacteria and archaea are prokaryotes. And every other living thing on Earth is a eukaryote. And this is where the rubber hits the road, baby. We'll talk about this more when we talk about endosymbiosis in another video, but all eukaryotic life forms evolved from prokaryotic life forms. The difference between eukaryotes and prokaryotes is that eukaryotes have membrane-bound organelles in their cells, and these membrane-bound organelles are what used to be other organisms. This is a whole thing life does. Life wires itself up together, baby. That is the heart of a lot of the research that I do. You and I are made out of smaller life forms, and the small little cells that we are made of are also made of smaller life forms. There's a whole thing. Endosymbiosis is a thing we are going to talk a lot about. Yeah, I mentioned Lynn Margulis in the intro. We're definitely going to go there, but that's a whole other video or a bunch of videos. So for right now, just understand that those tiny little dinky things, that's kind of the foundation of all life on Earth. That's bacteria. That's what we are all made out of. They're the most fundamental life form on Earth. They're the most ancient life form on Earth. And they're very, very fascinating, interesting subject on their own. We're made out of those. Everything in this dish is made out of those and is also, incidentally, eating those. That's what's going on here. Because these other things that you can see, the protists, there's two main species that I'm seeing in this dish. Sometimes we also get a little dose of microanimalia. Sometimes there are nematodes and rotifers and things in oats. But this time I'm just seeing these. These are both eukaryotes. They're both protists. They're also both part of a large group of organisms called ciliates. That has to do with those wiggly little squigglies that you see on them, that they use both for feeding and to transport themselves around. This one is some sort of spirotrich. The squiggly little cilia sticking out of their mouth, they have a big old mouth opening with a lot of these things that they filter their food with. They also have a bunch of cilia running around the outside of themselves that they move around with. They're these slipper things. They look like slipper bugs. Just think, when you see a slipper bug like this, it's a ciliate, it's a protist, it's a eukaryote, and it's probably a spirotrich. I mean, there are just a lot of levels. And then there's some specific species past there, and I could not tell you what exact species. That's above my pay grade. Which is a good time to remind you that I'm not an actual microbiologist by trade. I'm a nerdy artist. I try to throw that out there every few videos, but just to keep things honest. All right, so yeah, those are Spirotrix. And then this one is a Vorticella. At least it's some kind of paratrick. You can find these ones singly or in colonies. And paratrix are these things they have a long stalk that they like to attach themselves to things when they feed, but they can let go and swim around too if they want. They have a swimmy aroundy form, but when you see them, they're usually attached to the substrate by a stalk that they put out, and then they feed in one spot. Ciliates are really fun because a lot of them are vortex feeders. That's what's going on here. They're experts at fluid dynamics, and so they roil up the fluid around them, and then they filter through it with their little cilia, and that's how they feed themselves. Fun fact, you and I have a bunch of cilia in our bodies. Every cell in our body practically has cilia in it, and that is also what those little hairs that move mucus up from your lungs and whatnots. I mean, yeah, nature conserves things. We are made out of these smaller organisms, and we all have cilia, and we use them the way we use them. They seem to be a very fundamental part of life on Earth. These are things for other videos. So much one could say. But let's focus on what's going on in the oats here. So life on Earth was all prokaryotic in the very beginning. And what that means is just that unlike everything else on Earth, bacteria and archaea, they don't have a bound nucleus. They don't have little bound organelles like all other cells do. So those tiny little squiggly things in the very back, those are bacteria. And the big bumbly things you see in the foreground, those are protists. And oops, whoa, look what we found right here. Oh my God, this is cool. So that large cartoony spider-looking outline, that is a microanimal. That is a dust mite. It is either the exoskeleton that it grew out of, or it's what's left of a dead dust mite. I'm not really sure which. But inside the dust mite, there's a spirotrick. Oh, look, there's a paratrick down underneath it too. So you got like your whole collection here. Yes, dust mites are in literally everything, and they are little micro animals. You can't see them without a microscope. That's what they look like. You probably got them living all over your bed sheets and your pillowcases. They like to live on your skin and stuff too. And so there you go, a microanimal. This is your oatmeal. Whoa, look at those things. So I'm not showing you this to gross you out. But scary music here. This isn't disgusting. This is just oatmeal. This is what's actually going on. This is what it's like out of the box. And it's not just your oatmeal. It's everything. Everything. If you look closely enough at anything, man, you can see the whole universe in there. And this is your oatmeal. We're all intertwined. We're all made up of all these smaller little beings. And our world is made up of all these tiny little beings. And it's not... I think it does us a huge disservice to regard the entire microsphere as germs, and being squeamish about them is to be ignorant about what's really going on here. While the germ theory of disease is certainly true, that doesn't mean that all microbes are dangerous. In fact, well over 90% of all the microorganisms on Earth are harmless to you. They make up our life support system. They're part of a thriving ecosystem, and we need them. Now, when you boil your oats, these little beings, well, they don't survive the boiling process, which makes me sad. I don't know. Sometimes I'll see something in the microsphere that makes it hard for me to want to eat a particular kind of food, but mostly I just understand that this is what life is. We're all trading our energy back and forth in this big old living organism of Earth. So these are your oats.